The Silent Defiance. Commander Maya Chen stood at the viewport, watching the sprawling arms of Nexus Station gleam against the backdrop of stars. This magnificent construct, where 17 sentient species had once gathered in cooperation, would soon be off limits to her kind. As the last human representative to the Galactic Assembly, she was being forced to witness the final verdict of humanity's exile. The assembly hall buzzed with alien voices. Maya's translator implant struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations, but the sentiment was clear enough without technology. Excitement, relief, the occasional ripple of laughter. They were celebrating humanity's removal. Chancellor Vorex, a towering gen with iridescent scales and 6 upper limbs, activated the central podium. The hall fell silent. The final vote has been tallied, Vorex announced, mandibles clicking in what Maya recognized as satisfaction. 17 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion to exclude humanity from all galactic affairs and restrict their vessels to their home system is hereby ratified. Maya's face remained impassive as murmurs of approval filled the chamber. 7 years of diplomacy, trade agreements, and cultural exchange programs, all erased with a single vote. Would the human representative care to make a final statement? Vorex's compound eyes fixed on Maya, gleaming with what could only be described as smug triumph. Maya stepped forward, her dress uniform, midnight blue with silver insignia of the United Earth Command, stark against the ornate alien garb surrounding her. "The people of Earth acknowledge your decision," she said, her voice steady. "But we respectfully maintain that this action is based on fear, not reason. Humanity has committed no violations of the Galactic Charter. We have fulfilled every obligation. This ban reflects not our failings, but yours." Hisses and clicks of disapproval rippled through the chamber. Chancellor Vorex raised his upper limbs for silence. "Your species adapts too quickly, pushes too aggressively. You question too much and accept too little. The Assembly has concluded that humanity's unpredictable nature poses an inherent threat to galactic stability." His mandibles twisted in what passed for a smile. "You have 6 standard cycles to vacate Nexus Station. Your diplomatic credentials are hereby revoked." The session ended with no further ceremony. Maya turned and walked out, conscious of the many eyes, some multifaceted, some bioluminescent, some barely recognizable as sensory organs, following her exit. Lieutenant Kai Ramirez was waiting in the corridor outside, his expression grim. "They really did it," he said as they fell into step. "Not a single ally stood with us." "They were persuaded," Maya replied quietly. "Too many species changed their positions too quickly. Something isn't right about this." They entered the human embassy, soon to be former embassy, where staff were already packing essential equipment. The mood was somber but efficient. "Commander, transmission from Earth Command," called out Communications Officer Prisha. "Priority Alpha. Your eyes only." Maya nodded and headed to the secure communications room. The holographic figure of Admiral Santiago materialized, his weathered face grave. "Commander Chen, I've received your report on the vote. The outcome is disappointing, but not unexpected. Sir, I strongly believe there's more to this ban than simple xenophobia. The Arcturians were our strongest supporters just 2 months ago. Now they won't even make eye contact." The Admiral nodded. "We share your concerns, which is why your evacuation orders have been modified." He leaned forward. "Officially, you'll be returning with the last transport. Unofficially, you're staying on Nexus." Maya's eyebrows rose. "Sir, we need eyes and ears there, Commander. Someone the Assembly believes has left, but who can move freely among the service personnel. Your security clearance has been upgraded. You're now operating under Operation Silent Witness." "Understood, sir." Maya's mind was already calculating logistics. "What about my team?" "Lieutenant Ramirez will return as scheduled. He'll be your liaison with Earth Command. Officer Nair has been briefed. She'll remain as your only direct support on Nexus, officially reassigned as a maintenance technician. After the transmission ended, Maya sat in silence for a moment. Her new orders made sense. Earth needed intelligence, but living undercover on a station where humans had just been declared persona non grata would be challenging, to say the least. When she emerged, Prisha was waiting. The younger woman's dark eyes were determined. "So we're staying," she said quietly. Maya nodded. "How good are you with maintenance protocols?" "I've memorized the station schematics as ordered. I can access most systems without raising flags." Prisha handed her a small data chip. "Your new identity. Maintenance Supervisor, Section 42. Non-essential personnel. The kind that becomes invisible in plain sight." 3 weeks later, Maya Chen no longer existed on Nexus Station. In her place, Supervisor Lin moved through the service corridors, dressed in gray utilities, hair cropped short, face deliberately unmemorable. Her implants had been reconfigured to mask her genetic signature from casual scans. Only a deep medical examination would reveal her true identity. She and Prisha maintained separate quarters, communicated through coded maintenance requests, and gathered what intelligence they could. It was frustrating work. Access to the assembly was restricted. Important conversations happened behind security fields. But patterns were emerging. "They're planning something in the Orion Arm," Prisha murmured as they met in a rarely used storage bay. 3 species have moved warships into the region in the past week alone. "The Orion Arm," Maya replied, "where 5 of our largest colonies are located." "That's not all." Prisha activated the small holoprojector. "I managed to access shipping manifests. The Diraxians are transporting large quantities of biocontainment units to a research facility near the Taurus Gate." Maya frowned. "Biocontainment. The Diraxians specialize in genetic modification technology." "Exactly. And look at these power signatures." Prisha highlighted several energy readings. "Whatever they're doing requires massive energy input." A chill ran down Maya's spine. "They've been collecting humans," she said quietly. "Frontier colonists have been disappearing for months. We thought it was normal attrition. People going off-grid, joining the free traders. But what if?" The implication hung in the air between them. Their breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maya was replacing environmental filters in the xenobiology section when a Kelvin researcher approached her. Kelvins were small 4-armed beings with translucent skin through which their circulatory system was visible, currently pulsing with heightened agitation. "You, human." The Kelvin spoke in a whisper. "I am Krell. We must talk." Maya maintained her cover. "Sir, I'm just here to replace filters." "I know who you are, Commander Chen." The Kelvin's voice remained low. "And I know you stayed behind. There are those of us who did not agree with the ban, those who see the larger threat." Maya tensed, ready to flee or fight. "What threat?" "Not here." Krell handed her a data crystal. "My research notes. What they're planning for your species. Meet me in Sublevel 3, Section 19. After 3rd rotation. Come alone." Before Maya could respond, the Kelvin hurried away. That night, Maya examined the crystal in her quarters. What she found turned her blood cold. Research logs, experimental data, genetic sequencing, all focused on human biology. The Diraxians weren't just studying humans, they were weaponizing them. "They fear your adaptability," Krell explained later in the dimly lit maintenance shaft. "Humans evolve response patterns faster than any known species. You overcome, improvise, survive. The assembly fears what you might become in a century or 2. So they're developing biological weapons targeted against us." Maya asked, still processing the horrifying data. "Worse, they're attempting to harvest your adaptive capabilities." Krell's transparent skin pulsed with anxiety. The Gen believe they can isolate the genetic factors that make humans so resilient and incorporate them into their own genome. "Genetic theft," Maya whispered. The ban was just the beginning. Isolation before extinction or exploitation. Krell's 4 hands made a complex gesture that Maya's translator interpreted as profound regret. "But there is something else. something they discovered that terrified them enough to accelerate their plans. What? A recording. From a human research outpost on Tarsus IV. The station was attacked by void parasites 3 cycles ago. Everyone was assumed dead. Krell's large eyes blinked rapidly. But when a salvage team arrived, they found something impossible. Survivors. Humans who had adapted to resist the parasites. That's not unusual, Maya said. Human immune systems. You don't understand. These parasites reconfigure neural pathways. No species has ever developed resistance. But these humans, they didn't just survive. They thrived, developed new abilities, and the recording shows how quickly it happened. Maya's mind raced. Where is this recording now? Secured in the Assembly's restricted archives. Level 1 clearance only. Which we don't have, Maya said grimly. No, Krell agreed. But I know someone who does. Thus began the most dangerous phase of Maya's mission. With Krell's help, she and Prisha worked to access the restricted archives. If they could obtain this recording, proof of the Assembly's true motives, perhaps Earth could leverage it to challenge the van, or at least prepare for whatever the 17 species were planning. What they didn't realize was that the recording contained something far more significant than evidence of conspiracy. It held the key to humanity's future among the stars, and the truth that would silence a room full of aliens who had laughed at humanity's exile. The revelation that silenced them. The restricted archives of Nexus Station lay at the heart of the station's administrative section, a fortress of data protected by the most advanced security measures 17 species could devise. No single person was supposed to have complete access, a deliberate safeguard against precisely what Maya, Prisha, and their unlikely ally Krell were attempting. The system requires 3 different species' biometric signatures, Krell explained as they huddled in an abandoned maintenance shaft. A physical impossibility for infiltrators. Unless we have someone on the inside, Maya said, studying the schematics Krell had provided. Your contact, how reliable are they? Vex is Arcturian. Their people were the last to turn against humans. Many still question the decision privately. Krell's translucent skin pulsed with nervous energy, but Vex is risking everything. The penalty for treason is neural dissolution. Maya nodded grimly. The plan was fragile, dependent on too many variables, but it was the only chance they had. For 2 months, they had gathered evidence of the conspiracy against Earth, weapons development, military buildups near human colonies, even intercepted communications discussing the human problem. But without the recording from Tarsus IV, they had nothing concrete to prove the Assembly's true intentions. We move tonight, she decided, during the celebration. The celebration. What irony. The first anniversary of humanity's exclusion from galactic affairs, marked by a formal reception for Assembly delegates. While 17 species toasted humanity's absence, Maya would be stealing the very evidence that might force them to reverse their decision. Prisha, who had been silent during the exchange, finally spoke. Commander, I've been monitoring communications. Security's been doubled for the event. And there's something else. She hesitated. Chancellor Vorex has called for an emergency session immediately following the reception. Subject unspecified, but classified Priority Omega. Maya and Krell exchanged glances. Priority Omega meant only one thing. Existential threat. They're accelerating their timeline, Maya said quietly. Whatever they're planning against Earth, it's happening soon. The infiltration began precisely at 19th rotation, when the reception was in full swing. Prisha, positioned in a maintenance hub, systematically rerouted security protocols, creating phantom alerts in distant sections of the station. Krell, using his legitimate researcher credentials, approached the archives with a routine data request. And Maya, disguised in the ceremonial robes of a Gen cultural attaché, moved through the administrative corridors. The robe's voluminous folds concealed both her human features and the compact equipment she carried. Approach point in 20 seconds, Prisha's voice came through Maya's subdermal communicator. Security drone patrol in 3, 2, 1. Clear. Maya reached the sealed entrance to the restricted archives, just as Krell arrived from another direction. His forearms trembled slightly as he nodded to her. "Vex is already inside," he whispered. "You have approximately 3 minutes once I create the distraction." Before Maya could respond, alarms blared throughout the corridor. Not part of their plan. "Perimeter breach in Section 7, announced the station's eye. "All security personnel report." "That's not me," Prisha hissed over the comm. "Something's happening on the diplomatic level." No time to abort. Maya pressed her hand against Krell's, transferring a microscopic device that would temporarily mimic Arcturian biometrics. "Go. I'll find another way in." Krell hurried to the archives entrance, where his legitimate credentials got him through the first security layer. Meanwhile, Maya slipped into a maintenance conduit, bypassing the main corridor. The secondary access to the archives was more heavily guarded but less monitored, designed for emergency physical access to the data cores. Maya used the chaos of the security alert to advantage, timing her approach between drone patrols. The access hatch required an override code, which Prisha had extracted from maintenance protocols days earlier. As Maya entered it, she silently counted down the seconds until the security system would detect the anomaly. The hatch opened. She slipped inside just as heavy footsteps pounded past in the corridor. Inside the archive's physical core, data crystals glowed in precise rows, each containing information deemed too sensitive for network storage. Maya activated her scanner, searching for the specific energy signature Krell had identified. "Commander," Prisha's voice was tight with urgency. "The emergency session has been moved up. It's starting now. And they're discussing Operation Sundering." Maya froze. Operation Sundering, the code name from Krell's data. The coordinated strike against human colonies. "How long do I have?" "Minutes, maybe less. Whatever you're going to find it fast." The scanner pinged, identifying a crystal near the center of the room. As Maya approached, a translucent figure stepped from between the storage units. "Commander Chen." The Arcturian's voice was melodic even in whisper. "I am Vex. Krell said you would come." The Tarsus recording is not what you think. Vex held out a small data crystal, different from the others. "This is what they fear, what Vorex intends to destroy tonight, after using it to justify Operation Sundering." Maya took the crystal. "What's on it?" "The truth about humanity's potential, and why some of us believe your species deserves to survive." Vex glanced toward the entrance. "Go. The secondary exit leads to a maintenance shaft near the assembly hall. You'll never have a better opportunity than now, when all delegates are gathered." "Why are you helping us?" Maya had to ask. Vex's luminescent eyes dimmed slightly. "Because extinction is too high a price for fear. Now go." Maya didn't waste time arguing. With the crystal secured, she slipped through the maintenance shaft, hearing the growing commotion from the assembly hall ahead. "Chancellor Vorex has begun the session," Prisha reported. "He's showing censored footage from Tarsus IV, only the parts showing human aggression, painting your people as dangerous evolving predators." "Can you access the assembly hall systems?" "Negative. Different network. Maximum security." Maya reached a junction where the maintenance shaft opened into a small control room overlooking the assembly hall. Through the observation window, she could see delegates gathered in tiered seating, their attention fixed on the massive holographic display. Distorted images flickered across the display, humans in what appeared to be combat stances, eyes wild, movements aggressive. Without context, it looked terrifying. Clear evidence that humans are not merely adaptable, but dangerously mutable, Vorex was saying, his amplified voice resonating through the chamber. The Tarsus survivors didn't just resist the void parasites. They incorporated their abilities. Imagine these unpredictable creatures with such power spreading throughout our systems. Murmurs of alarm spread through the delegates. The ban was merely a first step, Vorex continued. Our scientists now confirm that human genetic potential poses an existential threat. Operation Sundering is not merely justified. It is essential for our collective survival. Maya studied the control panel before her. Basic station systems, lighting, environmental, communications, nothing that would give her access to the main display. But perhaps she didn't need it. Prisha, she whispered into her comm. Can you trigger an environmental alert in the assembly hall? Something minor, enough to distract security but not evacuate. On it. Moments later, the lighting in the assembly hall flickered. Ventilation systems whirred loudly as they cycled through an unnecessary purge sequence. As predicted, security personnel moved toward the environmental controls, leaving the observers' gallery temporarily unattended. Maya slipped from the control room into the gallery, where technicians and junior aides normally monitored proceedings. Now empty due to the sensitive nature of the emergency session, it offered a perfect vantage point and access to a communications terminal. She inserted Vex's crystal into the terminal, quickly bypassing the security protocols with the override codes Prisha had provided. Below, Chancellor Vorex was calling for order as the environmental systems stabilized. We will now vote on Resolution 7732, authorizing immediate military action against human settlements in the Orion Arm, to be followed by containment measures for the Sol system itself. This was it. No more time for subtlety. Maya activated the crystal's contents and routed them to her own communication channel, one that would bypass the assembly's controls and transmit directly to every screen on Nexus Station. The enormous display above the assembly floor suddenly flickered, interrupting Vorex mid-sentence. The distorted footage disappeared, replaced by clear, unaltered video from Tarsus IV. The scene showed a research station in ruins. Bodies, human and alien, scattered throughout blood-spattered corridors. Then movement. Survivors huddled in a sealed laboratory, faces gaunt, eyes determined. As the assembly watched in stunned silence, the recording revealed what had actually happened on Tarsus IV. The humans hadn't become predators. They had adapted, yes, but to protect both themselves and the alien researchers trapped with them. The footage showed humans using their newfound resistance to shield vulnerable non-immune species. It showed them developing ways to communicate with the void parasites, eventually establishing a remarkable symbiosis that neutralized the threat. Most stunning of all, it showed Gen military vessels arriving not to rescue, but to eliminate all witnesses, firing upon escape pods containing both humans and aliens. This is the truth Chancellor Vorex doesn't want you to see. Maya's voice rang out as she stepped to the edge of the gallery, removing her disguise. Not humans becoming monsters, but humans doing what we've always done, adapting to survive and protect others. Chaos erupted in the assembly hall. Delegates shouted questions, security forces moved toward Maya, and Chancellor Vorex bellowed for the transmission to be cut. But it was too late. The unaltered footage was streaming not just to the assembly hall, but to every vessel docked at Nexus Station, every diplomatic mission, every species' homeworld with communication links. The ban on humanity was never about aggression. Maya continued, her voice carrying over the tumult. It was about fear of our potential. Fear that we might become something more, something better than what we were. And fear that we might help other species do the same. The security forces surrounding her suddenly hesitated as several delegates rose to their feet, mandibles and tentacles, and voice sacs signaling outrage. Not at Maya, but at Vorex. Is this true? Demanded the Arcturian High Minister, bioluminescent patterns flashing with indignation. Did you censor this evidence to justify genocide? Chancellor Vorex's scales darkened with rage or fear, perhaps both. This human has manipulated the recording. Security, remove her immediately. The recording is authentic, came a new voice. Krell stepped forward from among the research delegates, his transparent skin pulsing with emotional intensity. I verified it myself. The timestamps, biometric data, quantum signatures, all confirm its integrity. Other voices joined in, a growing chorus of confusion and anger. The Medusan delegation withdrew entirely, their crystalline forms vibrating with distress. Two smaller species Maya didn't recognize appeared to be arguing violently with the Jeunes representatives. In the midst of the chaos, Maya met Vorex's compound eyes across the chamber. The Chancellor's mandibles worked silently for a moment before he turned and hurried from the podium, flanked by his security detail. "Commander," Prish's voice came urgently through the comm. "Jeune vessels are powering weapons systems. They're targeting the station." But even as she spoke, other ships moved to intercept: Arcturian, Kelvin, and 3 other species whose signatures Maya didn't recognize. "This is High Minister Thalen of the Arcturian Confederation," boomed a new voice over the station-wide communication system. "Any aggressive action will be considered an act of war against the Assembly itself. Stand down immediately." For several tense moments, the outcome hung in balance. Then, gradually, the Gen weapons signatures faded. In the Assembly Hall, a temporary leadership council was already forming, delegates clustering in urgent discussion. Maya found herself surrounded not by security forces, but by representatives from half a dozen species, their translated voices overlapping as they demanded details, explanations, assurances. "Commander Chen," the Arcturian High Minister approached, luminescence patterns shifting in complex emotions Maya's translator couldn't fully interpret. "It seems we owe humanity a profound apology, and perhaps our future." Maya nodded cautiously. "What happens now?" "Now." The High Minister's patterns brightened. "Now we begin again. Without secrets. Without fear. The ban on humanity is hereby rescinded, pending formal vote, though I believe that will be merely a formality." As word spread throughout Nexus Station, Maya received one final transmission from Earth Command. "Well done, Commander." Admiral Santiago's weathered face showed rare emotion. "The other shoe just dropped. The Gen fleet near our colonies is in full retreat. It seems your evidence caused quite the diplomatic incident. Sir, request permission to remain on Nexus as Earth's official representative during the transition." The Admiral's eyebrows rose. "Granted, Commander, but fair warning. You've made some powerful enemies today." Maya looked around at the Assembly Hall, where species that had voted unanimously for humanity's exclusion now argued passionately about restitution, cooperation, and shared security against those who had manipulated them. "And some powerful friends, sir," she replied. "I think humanity's going to be just fine out here among the stars." As the emergency session transformed into an impromptu diplomatic revolution, Maya couldn't help but appreciate the irony. They had laughed at humanity's ban, mocked our isolation, feared our potential, until the truth silenced them all. But silence, Maya knew, was just the beginning. What would follow? The real conversation between humanity and the galaxy would echo across the stars for generations to come.